where the finest heroes assemble.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Matteo's Corner. Y'all thought I was done with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, didn't ya? Well, joke's on you, because we're back and we're ready. But we're not going to be doing any gameplay. I'm actually going to be doing more of the blog posts, because you know I've actually been liking these little blog post things, talking about costumes and what I think about the roster and stuff. So I'm going to do that for this game. So we're going to start with the Capcom side, because we're already there. Jill Valentine, more specifically her Resident Evil 5 variant. You know, honestly, I'm not a fan of this character. I like that they added Jill into the game, but I would have really liked if they had her variant from Resident Evil, from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which was based on her Resident Evil 1 version. I think also Resident Evil 3. It would have been really cool to see that. I know that Jill has this costume, which makes it a little bit better in terms of, like, you know, how the character is, but you know, I just feel like, again, they could have had the original version of Jill and people would have been happy. Although I understand they were trying to go with the Resident Evil 5 because that was the big game that was out at the time, so I kind of understand why they did that. But as for if I think Jill should have been in the game, it's kind of mixed, right? Like, they could have picked a different character, I think. They could have picked, like, Asura, or, you know, Jean from God Hand, or some other character that was, or even, like, or not Marvel. They could have added, like, Ruby Heart, or something like that, and I think that would have worked a little bit better, but even Sun, you know, like, that they could have added a character that, but Jill is from MVC2. I get they were trying to get people to buy the game even more than usual, so they're like, oh, here's Jill, and they gave you this awesome costume. So, I mean, I feel mixed about Jill. I'm kind of neutral on Jill. Nemesis. Okay, kind of the same with Jill, except I understand why they put Nemesis in. They wanted a big giant character to fight, like Sentinel and the Hulk, and or at least Sentinel. So, yeah, I understand why they put Nemesis in. But you know what? I'm happy that they put Nemesis in because this showed Resident Evil fans that they still cared about the older games. Because as you see, I'll get to the other two Resident Evil people as I get to them. But yeah, I really think that Nemesis was a good choice. He's a awesome character. He's interesting. He has a, you know, he's like Sentinel, where he's a big old giant scary thing. So yeah, Nemesis being in the game, I am actually a-okay with him being here. Oh, Chris, you and your very odd roster portrait. What are you trying to kick your own name? Are you going to step on us? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Chris Redfield, I'll put his alternate so we can see it. Chris, I'm okay with Chris. I mean, at the time, Resident Evil 5 was the big game when MVC3 came out, so I totally understand why Chris was in the game. And, you know, as Resident Evil protagonists go, yeah, I mean, Chris makes sense. He's been in a lot of the Resident Evil games. A lot of people were salty that Leon wasn't in the game, but to be fair, if Leon was in the game, he would have just been, like, a character, like he would have been basically Akuma. He would have been Akuma to Ryu, where, you know, he would have been just a total, oh, it's just a palette swap with some new moves, like, I think that's why, going back to Jill, I think that's why they changed Jill so much for MVC3, was that Chris already filled that, oh, I have all these weapons and everything, but Jill's cool thing in MVC2 was that she could summon zombies, and Tyrant was a part of that. Tyrant could have been her level 3, and she shoots him with a rocket launcher, right, and the other person's just there. it would have been really cool to see that. But yeah, I get why they wanted to make Jill Resident Evil 5, because, you know, oh, it's what was the big game at the time, because Resident Evil 5. So, Chris being in the game, I get it. If Jill wasn't in the game, I would have understood why they put Chris in more. But now that Jill is in the game, it's like, eh. But yeah, no. Chris makes sense. It's fine. Ah, my boy Wesker. Yeah, he has to be in the game. Has to be. He just has to be in the game. His fighting style leaves a lot open for a fighting game character. And quite honestly, yeah. Wesker's just an awesome character. I love the idea that he was in this game. His fighting style is great. I even like how you can break his sunglasses and he could just put on a new pair. Yeah, Wesker being in the game is a total yes. Also, we need villains in this game. When this game first released, there wasn't really a lot of villains. So I'm really glad that they added more villains to the roster. That's why I like Nemesis and some of the other ones I appreciated. So yeah, Wesker definitely in the game. Love it. Darkstalkers rep. Yep. I love Darkstalkers. I'm glad that they keep getting reps in fighting games. I only wish that they had one male character from Darkstalkers, like John Talbane or Dimitri, or not Anacaris, like Pyron. Pyron would have been really cool. Would have been hard to animate, but they already have Dormammu and Ghost Rider for fire physics, so Pyron wouldn't have been that different. But yeah, Morgan in the game. It's like Ryu. You know, if you're gonna have a crossover game, you have to put her in. She's a character people recognize. They know who she is. She has a very balanced fighting style, kind of like Ryu, except she has a couple moves that are hard to pull off. But yeah, definitely Morgan's good. My girl, Felicia. One of my mains from Darkstalkers. Love Felicia. She's a great character. She's got a good fighting style. She's the Capcom equivalent to the Wolverine Rushdown kind of thing. Very happy that Felicia was in this game. And it makes sense because Felicia is one of the big Darkstalker female characters. The big ones are like Morgan, BB Hood, Felicia, and Senko. Like, those are the big four female characters. Yeah, Felicia being in the game, I personally am very happy with. Yeah, stays in the game, happy with it. Okay. Senko. I actually have problems with Senko. Not that I think she's a bad character. I think she's an interesting character with a cool fighting style. My problem with Senko comes in where, again, there could have been at least one male Darkstalkers character. Now, I know that sounds weird because this game doesn't have a lot of female characters, and people are, which I understand, you want more diversity in the games, but, you know, you could have put in BB Hood, right? BB Hood was in the original Marvel vs. Capcom 2. She already had her moveset, but I would have preferred a male Darkstalker, like, again, Pyron, or Lord Raptor. You want a crazy fighting style? Get Lord Raptor. That guy's amazing, right? Like, if you really want diverse fighting styles, there you go. But, yeah, I mean, I get why Senko's in the game. She's a popular character, but I would have liked a Darkstalkers rep. So just like Jill, I'm kind of neutral on this one. Like, I don't hate the character, but, you know, it's funny. I don't hate all the characters in this roster. I actually don't. There's every character that's here, besides like maybe one or two, like, I get why they're in the game, but my thing is, do I think they should have been in the roster when there were other possible choices? That's what I'm getting at. So because of that, no. I think Senko should have been swapped out with a male Darkstalkers character, get a little more deeper into Darkstalkers than just the female characters, because sadly that's what Darkstalkers is becoming, where people only know Morgan or certain other people. So anyway, I mean, I'm glad she's here, but yeah, it's kind of like Jill. I feel like they could have replaced it with somebody else. Firebrand, or Red Armor, as he's sometimes called. I am okay with Firebrand. It's cool that we're getting Ghouls and Ghosts reps, and Firebrand is technically a good guy, but he also could technically be a bad guy, depending on what game you play. I actually really like Firebrand. I don't play as him personally, but it's cool that he's in the game. Yeah, he's not just a character swap of another character like certain people on this list of people. Yeah, totally okay with Firebrand. Same thing with Firebrand. I'm glad that we had a Ghouls and Ghosts rep. This is a cool looking character. He's got lots of cool little moves. Again, if you're gonna add more characters to a roster, you may as well make it from a game that either doesn't have a lot of reps, or you make it where it's a character that has never been in the game before, the series before. And that's what they did with this game. They brought in a lot of people from games that weren't in the original games, which is awesome, honestly. I think that was pretty smart on their part. But at the same time, going back to Firebrand, like, did we need a second Ghouls and Ghosts character? No. I mean, they could have replaced Firebrand with somebody else because they already had Arthur. But I'm glad that Firebrand's in it. I'm glad that Arthur's in it. I think 2 is a good number for certain series. I think certain series could have pushed with a little more. But yeah, I feel like Arthur's good. He's a good fit. Yes. Zero from Mega Man X has to be in the game. There are a lot of fans of Zero. I'm surprised that they didn't put any sort of Mega Man into the game, but I feel like that was because of what was happening with at Capcom, the guy I forget his name, but basically, like, there were a lot of problems, and that guy originally, or not originally, he went on to make Mighty Number 9. So for a while, they were trying to really be kind of sparse with Mega Man. Like, they didn't want to put Mega Man in himself, but they could put, like, Zero in or something. Zero's dope. I'm totally okay with Zero. I'm happy that he's here. Great character. Could have fixed some of his supers a little bit, but yeah, totally am okay with it. Tron Bonne. Yep. Same as Zero. I'm happy Tron Bonne's in the game. She was in MVC2. Her first appearance was MVC2 in terms of Marvel vs. Capcom, and she was a surprising fan favorite. Like, people really like playing as Tron Bonne. Tron Bonne? Tron Bonne? Tron Bonnet? I don't know. Yeah, Tron. Awesome character. Love the character. She's great. I love her alternate. It's hilarious. But yeah, totally am digging Tron Bonne. If you're not going to put in... Okay, I will say one thing, though. I wish they put in a classic Mega Man rep like Bass or Dr. Wily or even like Roll. You know, Roll could have been a character. They did it in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, so they could have taken that version of Roll, changed her up a little bit so she was more like her MVC version. And just a little bit, though. And you would have had 3 Mega Man reps. Would have been great. Would have been awesome. But yeah, Tron. Love Tron. I actually play as Tron. Okay, this is... You know what? I'm going to do this one. There we go. So, it's interesting that Spencer's in this game. Not because I don't think Bionic Commando is a terrible franchise. I think Bionic Commando is great. It's one of those series that could definitely use an original reboot. Like a reboot of a reboot. Because the... Okay, I guess I gotta explain a little bit. So, Spencer had a reboot for the PS3 and the 360, and he looked like this. And the game was more of an open, you know, you swing around, very action-oriented than the original games, which featured this one, where he would... I think that's actually supposed to be... I think his name is Joe or something like that. But anyway, the original games were these 2D games where you would use your claw hand to grapple up on the walls and ceilings, and it was awesome. And then they took it and they made the remake, which was very strange, honestly. And if you don't know why people don't like the new one, look it up. Look up the. I'm not going to spoil anything, but look up the plot. The plot was kind of strange, and to be fair, if they made a second Bionic Commando, I'm pretty of the reboot series, I'm sure that they could actually get a good game off of it. Because that's what happens sometimes with reboots, is that you get things where sometimes they just don't stick, but when you make a sequel, it really sticks. And Spencer being in the game, I mean, again, I'm okay with him being in the game. If he wasn't in the game, in the original version, I probably wouldn't have cared. But it just felt weird that after the reboot didn't do very well, that they just put him in the game. It's kind of odd, but I mean, yeah, Spencer at least is a unique character, so I mean, I'm okay. I'm neutral. I'm neutral with him, kind of like Jill in the Senko. I'm neutral with this character. It's like, okay, if at least he's a new character. Actually, you know, I'm actually okay with him being in the game. I take it back. I'm not neutral. I'm actually okay with it because he's from another series that didn't have a lot of love way back when this came out, so they were trying, and I mean, he's a good character, so I mean, I take it back. I'm actually okay with Spencer. Hagar. Yes. Hagar should be in the game. I understand why they didn't put in Zangief, because they wanted a more diverse roster than just Street Fighter. Yeah, I'm okay with Hagar. He's a Final Fight rep. Cody and Guy were in Street Fighter 4, and now Poison and Hugo, so it made sense to put in Hagar or some other character into Marvel vs. Capcom. Yeah, Hagar's good. I like Hagar. Oh, Strider, yes. Definitely needs to be in the game. Ever since MVC 1, he's been a fan favorite. He has a cool fighting style. I think around this time they also made the reboot of Strider on PS3 that they then put on PS4 and Xbox. I can't remember if that was around the same time, but yeah, definitely Strider. Also, for those of you who don't know, this is what Strider originally looked like in the original games. I do like that they added the red sash. I think that looks really cool. But yeah, Strider definitely has to stay in the game. Love it. Alright, so personally, I'm not a fan of the Dead Rising games. I tried to play them. I just couldn't get into them. It's not my kind of games. But Frank West definitely does make sense as a character to be in this game. It does feel odd, though, because similar to Zero, Frank West was in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. And it's interesting that it feels like they took both of those characters and they just plopped them into this game because they're like, oh, well, we already have the character done. Why not, right? But again, I understand why Frank is in the game. Dead Rising's a huge franchise. Frank West is an interesting character in terms of gameplay. It makes sense why he's in the game. I am okay with Frank. At least he's a different. At least they didn't. So here's the other thing. They could have went with Chuck from Dead Rising 2. I think his name was Chuck. They could have. They could have easily have just said, you know what, we're going to put Chuck in, and that'll be that. However, what they did was they made him a costume. I can't remember which costume it is. Hang on. There it is. They made him a costume, which is interesting. And it wasn't even an alternate costume where it changes the whole character. They made him just a color scheme. So, because his alternate is this, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, it's very strange why they didn't put in Chuck in terms from a business standpoint. But I'm glad they picked Frank. Frank is more memorable. So they even made a remake of 2 where it was Frank West as the main character. So that, I guess, says something, right? Okay, so, Ryu. I mean, yeah, you have to put Ryu in the game. He's from Street Fighter. He's the big flagship of Capcom, other than Resident Evil. So, oh, and Devil May Cry and now Monster Hunter, I guess. But yeah, Ryu has to be in the game. Yeah, it's like Wolverine on the Marvel side at this time. You just have to put him in the game. He's been there since the beginning with X-Men versus Street Fighter. So, I mean, yeah, gotta be there. ChunLi. Yes. Yeah, I can see why Chun-Li's in the game. I'm a fan of Chun-Li. If you're gonna put more than one Street Fighter character, you have to put in Chun-Li. You just have to. She's one of the big women in gaming, and it would feel weird if you didn't put her in. It's kind of like Morgan. It's like, why would you not put them in the game, Capcom? Like, that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. Okay. So here's where I'm kind of iffy on the roster. Are the next couple characters. Akuma. I'm a huge fan of Akuma. I actually use Akuma. Akuma is amazing. However, I feel like the only reason why Akuma is in this game is because he's been in almost every single Marvel vs. Capcom game in the franchise. He was in X-Men vs. Street Fighter, I think? I think he was. No, yes, he was. He was in X-Men vs. Street Fighter. In Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, he became Apocalypse's Herald, which is Cyber Akuma. He became, which I'm so glad they put this costume in, by the way. I freaking love this costume. But yeah, Cyber Akuma was the what they did. Wow, even like his character model looks like the classic Akuma color scheme and stuff. That's awesome. But yeah, he was in X-Men Children of the Atom. If you did a cheat code or hacked the game a little bit, I think he was a player. Or was that Marvel Superheroes? No, Marvel Superheroes was Anita from Darkstalkers, I think. It's one of the. It's either X-Men Children of the Atom or Marvel Superheroes. In the first Marvel vs. Capcom game, he was a palette swap of Ryu. Because I guess they wanted to put more characters into the game and they couldn't do it. So they're like, oh, we'll just give Ryu this ability where you can change your gameplay to be more like Ken or Akuma, which made no sense, honestly. I think that was kind of a dumb thing on their part. But then, because they could have just did a palette swap like what they did with, like, Orange Venom and Metal Zangief and Red or Orange Hulk, which is more like Hulk from that. They could have just put Akuma in. They could have given Ryu a palette swap that looks like Dark Ryu or Evil Ryu, which would have been Evil Ryu / Akuma. It would have been better in my opinion. But anyway, I'm ranting. Sorry. I'm just trying to make a point that I think the reason why Akuma's in this game is because, not just because he's a good character, but because he has like this honorary member pass in most of the Marvel vs. Capcom games. They're like, yeah, here's Akuma. He has to be in the game, or the majority of the games. But other than that, I like Akuma. I feel like he should be in the game because he's a unique character. You know, he's like Ryu, but he has a different play style technically. But if he wasn't in the game, I don't think I would have cared. It's kind of like Firebrand, Jill, and Senko, and sort of Spencer, where I'm like, you know, it's like when I look at most of this roster, I don't think like, oh yeah, this character has to be in the game. Like, I'm not. I mean, I love Akuma, but I feel like his inclusion was more for the honorary pass thing. But I'm glad he's there. Oh, you want to talk about a character that a lot of people have no idea how they feel about it? This character, Sea Viper. Personally, I think Sea Viper's a cool character. Personally, I think that she replaced Captain Commando for some people, and that's why I think people don't like her being in this game. is instead of just putting in Captain Commando or giving Sea Viper a Captain Commando skin, which, you know, could have worked, like a female version of the costume. Yeah, they just decided to put Sea Viper in, and I mean, I never played Street Fighter 4. I picked it up when I played it at a friend's house when it first came out, and I don't know, the art style just didn't really appeal to me, and I'm not a huge Street Fighter fan anyway. I'll play certain games, but I mean 5, I have problems with 5, but 5 now is a much better game. Well, when it first came out, there was like barely any content, and it was really only made in the beginning for people to get ready for the Capcom Cup, and it was released unfinished, and there was this whole crap happening around it. But anyway, Sea Viper. I feel like Jill, if she wasn't in the game, I wouldn't care. I mean, I think it's cool that they added all these new characters into Marvel vs. Capcom, so it wasn't just the normal people that we're used to. However, again, I feel like they could have given Captain Commando the spot, because she plays pretty much like Captain Commando, just for some differences in it. And I think that's what they were alluding to, that maybe she's like a version, their new version of Captain Commando. But come on, Capcom, don't be wusses. Give us Captain Commando. Give us a new Captain Commando game. Give us characters that we actually like. Don't replace. Okay, so it's like you know what this is? It's like this version of Jill, right? Don't replace a character with something like either. How do I explain this? Jill made sense because they were trying to go off of Resident Evil 5, but and because Chris was there, that's why they didn't do the original. But this is just a blatant, just like, oh yeah, we don't want to put Captain Commando in, so we'll just put in this new character, and we'll just call it a day. It's like, no, Capcom, you Captain Commando's their property. Like, I don't understand why they can't just make a Captain Commando character. Or give Tron Bon, like, a costume of the baby in the mech suit from, Captain Commando, or, you know what I mean? Like, it just feels weird to me why they wouldn't put in Captain Commando. Captain Commando's a big character, and if you wanted people to buy a lot more copies of your game, it's about the roster. But yeah, I personally think Sea Viper is a cool character. I just think she... Oh, hello. Sorry if that DLC thing pops on. I just think that Sea Viper didn't need to be in the game. I wouldn't have cared if she wasn't. Again, I never played Street Fighter 4. I mean, it's cool that she's in the game, but eh. Okay. So every single fighting game has to have a joke character. I mean, if they're not a blatant joke character, it's a character that people honestly are like, oh, this character's in the game. I think for MK11 that would be like the Terminator or Joker, but at the same time they're amazing characters. So MVC3 is Phoenix Wright. I don't know who decided to put Phoenix Wright into this game. It's kind of odd. Like, when you think of a fighting game of like Marvel and Capcom, you think like Mega Man and all these other big franchises, Asura, Jean from God Hand, right? All these other people, you think of like, it's another Capcom character. You know what's interesting? Speaking of characters, they should have given Arthur a Maximo outfit for his alternate. If you never heard of Maximo, Maximo was basically like a retelling of Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins, where they tried to reboot the franchise. Look that game up. That should have been an alternate costume for Arthur. I think that would have looked really cool. But anyway, back to Phoenix Wright. They also could have put in, like... Oh, jeez, I don't know. Like, Anyway, my brain's not working. I gotta go through all these characters. Brain's not working, but... Phoenix Wright being... I have no problem with Phoenix Wright being in the game. I don't play as him, because I don't particularly like his fighting style, but I understand they wanted a joke character. They also... Phoenix Wright was really big So they're like, yeah, we could put him in the game. If he wasn't in the game, I wouldn't have cared. So, if Phoenix Wright... Anyway, if Phoenix Wright wasn't in this game, probably wouldn't have cared. But it's cool that they put him in because it shows that Capcom cares somewhat for some of their other franchises. It's kind of like how I feel about with, like, Beautiful Joe and Okami. Like, Beautiful Joe... Well, we'll get to him in a second, but, yeah. Okay, so... Alright, I'm going to be very controversial. I think Virgil is... I mean, it's cool that he has a different fighting style than Dante, and it's cool that he's in the game, but I really don't care about Virgil. I really don't. I mean, a lot of the Devil May Cry characters, other than Dante, I have mixed feelings about. Because I feel like you could have just put Dante into the first game, into this one, MVC3, and been completely fine. Right? Like, just having Dante would have made people happy. And then they're like, no, we have to have another DMC character because we have to. So, okay, let me put it into perspective for you guys, okay? Let me put it into perspective. Strider was not in the... I don't think Strider was in the first Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Right? The new characters were Nemesis, Firebrand, Phoenix Wright, Strider, Frank West, and Virgil. And then for Marvel, it was Iron Fist, Rocket Raccoon, Nova, Ghost Rider, Hawkeye, and Doctor Strange. Yeah, 6. So, it's weird, because for some of these character choices, right? Like, you only had 2 Resident Evil reps. You had 2 Mega Man reps. For some reason, Street Fighter had 4 reps. And everyone else just kind of had 1. Except for this. DMC had 2 characters. And it intrigues me because, instead of putting in Akuma or C. Viper, they could have put one of these 2 in and then put in Strider into here. Instead of having Senko, they could have put in a male Darkstalkers character, or they could have just put, you know, some other character that they could have put in, like, thinking of MVC2, like, they had, like, Ruby Heart, Amingo, they had Sun Sun, they had, oh gosh, who else was from Capcom in that game? There weren't a lot of characters that were new in MVC2. That's kind of one thing that irks me about 2, is that it really just felt like, oh, we're just going to put everybody that we've made from every game, and then we'll put some new characters in. So, like, they could have put in a couple people, you know, like, I can't think of people off the time, but I'm sure if, in the comments, let me know who you would think you would have liked to have seen. Like, Strider, for sure, should have been in the vanilla original MVC3, not Ultimate. Ultimate was they resold Ultimate with the DLC already on disc, and then they had costumes. Definitely should have been in the original game. Who shouldn't have been in the original game? So Virgil was DLC, right? So back to Virgil here. Virgil, full circle. Virgil was DLC, and you know, it's I don't know. I feel like Virgil, if you're gonna put in, okay, to be fair, there's not a whole lot of DMC characters that you could put into a fighting game. You know, there's Virgil, there's Dante, there's Trish, there's Lady. I guess Nero is now, I think DMC4 was out around the time this game was made. He could have been in the game, and he could have been like the Akuma to Ryu, where he plays like Dante, but he has different moves because of his play style and everything. They could have put in like, I don't know. Anyway, long story short, Virgil's a fan favorite. I get it, but in terms of characters, like if you're trying to make a fighting game that's a diverse roster of so many different characters from Capcom's history, like MVC2, MVC1. MVC1 was mostly Street Fighter characters. It was mostly like actually it wasn't just Street Fighter, but like the first MVC game was mostly Capcom characters. And then the second MVC2 game, they had like 2 different versions of Wolverine. Like literally, it wasn't just 2 different characters, it was 2 actual characters. There was Bone Claw Wolverine and then like one that fit the original style. But they didn't do that with any other character, which was very strange. But yeah, I just feel like I like that Virgil's in the game, don't get me wrong, but I'm neutral about it because of the fact that either put him in the base game or don't add him at all. You know, like that's, I don't know. Again, it's going to be very controversial. I understand that. But here's why. I'm going to skip Dante for a second because Dante has to be in the game. There is no questions asked. Dante has to be in the game. He was a huge popular character requested for every Capcom fighting game that would work for DMC, even like Smash Bros. Dante makes sense. Here's my other problem with this roster for Capcom is Trish. Trish is a huge problem for me in this game. Not because of the character. I think the character is fine. Not because of her gameplay. Gameplay is fine. But if you were gonna make DLC, she was in the original MVC3. Now, on the one hand, it makes sense why she was in the game, right? They wanted another DMC rep other than Dante to bring people in from the DMC side who were fans. But at the same time, it's strange that they didn't make Virgil a character in the original game. They picked Trish. Now, it could be because they wanted more females in the roster. Because as you can see, almost every female character for Capcom is on one bar. You literally have Morrigan, Tron, ChunLi, Trish, and then you have Senko, Sea Viper, and Felicia and Jill just kind of thrown in there randomly. That's what rubs me the wrong way, though, about Trish, is that, like, it's like, okay, this could just be because I'm not a huge DMC fan. Maybe Trish has legit reasons why she was in the original MVC3 game. Like, again, it could be that they were trying to figure out new fighting styles that were diverse so everyone didn't feel like a clone. Okay, fair enough. But if you're looking at it from a character standpoint, it's odd that Trish was in the game because of just the whole thing of, well, you could have put in Virgil. Like, that was the big debate about this character, was that, well, where's Virgil? Why didn't you put Virgil in? Like, what, or what about Lady, or what about, like, other characters? So, I mean, it's not like Akuma or Sea Viper or Jill, where it's like, or it's not like Senko or Sea Viper and Akuma, where I feel really weird about it, and I'm like, nah, they probably shouldn't have been in the roster. I personally just feel like they could have put someone else in there. Or they could have put Virgil in the base game and then made Trish DLC in Ultimate. That would have been fine too. But anyway, Trish is fine. I'm okay with Trish. Again, I'm not a big DMC fan, so I have really nothing to say about the DMC characters other than the fact that, like, they could have just had Dante and been completely fine. And had 2 roster spaces open for newer characters that weren't represented yet, but I mean, it's understandable. It's fine. Beautiful Joe. I'm happy he's in the game. But this is yet another one that's kind of strange because he was also in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Like, it's very interesting to me how Tatsunoko vs. Capcom has become like this. That's a game I need to talk about rosters and stuff. That would actually be really fun. I'm probably gonna do that one next. When I have time, because that is a very interesting roster, especially also because the Japanese version has a character that's not in the the American version, the North American region version. Very interesting stuff. Anyways, Beautiful Joe, glad he's in the game. Wasn't a huge fan of the games, but it's cool that they put a character like that into this game because it's about superheroes fighting the Capcom universe, and Beautiful Joe is a superhero in the Capcom universe. So love it. It's awesome. Love him. Same with Amaterasu. Okami was a huge game, and if you're looking at a character that has crazy fighting styles, Amaterasu for sure has got your back. I don't know if they're going to put Amaterasu and Beautiful Joe into future Marvel vs. Capcom games, because I think, if I remember correctly, I think Clover closed? Or maybe they were absorbed into another company, and that's why we haven't seen a new, like, Beautiful Joe game. But long story short, yes, Amaterasu's great, should have been in the game. It's wonderful. That being said, how do I feel about the whole Capcom roster? It's okay. I mean, there's some really good picks in there that were new, like Wesker and stuff. That there were people that I thought could have been left out, like Phoenix Wright could have been left out, Sea Viper, Senko, Jill didn't really need to be in the game. Again, they could have picked like Ruby Heart or something to bring more people in. But I mean, I get why they put her in, because she was in 2, and they're like, well, we want to put her in 3. We already have the character model from 5. And then there's some ones that I was kind of iffy on. Like, I was kind of iffy on Spencer and Akuma and Trish and Virgil and a couple of them. But really, how many series? So I guess here's the big question. How many series are actually being represented? So we got Resident Evil, Ghosts and Goblins, Strider Hero, Phoenix Wright, DMC, Dead Rising, that's 6. Mega Man X, that's 7. Street Fighter is 8. Mega Man Legends is 9. Darkstalkers is 10. 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 out of the out of the 25 characters, 14 of them are from different franchises. There are 14 different franchises being represented. It's not bad. I mean, that's actually not a bad number. I can't wait to see what Marvel does, though, because some of them you could tie into one series, or you could tie them into 2 series, or whatever. That's going to be very interesting to see what they do there. But anyways, yeah, I think I'm going to stop the video here today. This video went on way longer than I thought it was going to, but I guess it's because I had a lot to say. So, I will make a part 2 of the Marvel roster pretty soon. Smash that like button, hit that bell icon, do all that jazz. Comment down, you know what? Comment down below what you guys think of the Capcom roster. Like, who would you put in if you took out certain characters that I had problems with and added whoever you wanted to the game? I really want to know what you guys think, because personally, it would have been really nice to get Captain Commando. It would have been really nice to see, like, Ruby Heart or someone else return from MVC2. It also would have been really cool if they added, like, Thanos. Or, maybe not Thanos, but, like, you know, more villains into the roster. So that, or even more female characters. I mean, like, you know, I like a lot of these characters, but there's some pretty badass Capcom female characters and Marvel characters that they could have added in as well. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.